At the very least, you know Brandi Chastain from this photo. She had just won the '99 World Cup with a penalty kick, and in a moment of unfiltered elation, ripped her shirt off, fell to her knees, and consequently created one of the most iconic photos ever. But there's more to her story than this photo. And there's more to this photo than just an athlete with her shirt off. Today it's celebrated as a symbol of women's empowerment, of women's strength and fearlessness and ability. But at the time the photo was snapped, not everyone believed Chastain and her celebration were genuine, or even good for women. Let's view Brandi Chastain, and this iconic image itself, through the prism. Taking the last penalty kick in the finals of the World Cup implies a pretty high level of talent, but Chastain wasn't always a star. I mean, she was definitely a star in college. This was after 2 ACL tears. In '89, at age 21, she made the US women's national team, and 2 years later, they won the first ever Women's World Cup. So what the hell am I talking about? She wasn't always a star. Look at the size of the trophy. Well, in '93, she was cut from the national team for not being in good enough shape. The whole scene was very messy. Coach Anson Dorrance didn't even tell her directly. He was on the phone with her husband, a college soccer coach. They were scheduling some college soccer stuff, and Dorrance was basically like, "By the way, tell your wife she's cut." Chastain was not pleased, and let Dorrance know that via angry letter. The coach wrote back, saying if she trained with the kind of passion contained in her letter, he'd invite her to try out for the team again. My man, you already cut her. Lay off. It kind of hurts my brain to imagine someone even being considered for the national team wasn't in shape. But I guess athletes who represent their country have different ideas of being in shape than you and me. Plus, Dorrance put a high priority on fitness. Here's the coach describing how he ran training camp before the '91 World Cup.
I try to set up environments that are filled with fury.
Dear God. But there was reasoning behind his madness. I'm calling it madness, even if it was helpful. The national team used a more aggressive formation than most teams. With more offensive players, they were able to press and be in their opponent's face all game long, but that required them to run constantly and never tire. Dorrance explained it more poetically.
Was we were going to reach out and grab the other team by the throat and squeeze the air out of them.
Is poetic the right word? Yeah, sure, poets can be serial killers. But it wasn't just Dorrance and his intensity. Chastain's college coach almost cut her because she wasn't in shape enough. And Chastain has said herself she didn't prioritize fitness back then. Now, we know the forward had the drive and determination to return from 2 ACL tears in college, so seems like she should have the willpower to train with the passion of her angry letter and get back on the team. Thing is, once you're off the national team, it's not easy to get back on. There just aren't that many opportunities. Between being cut and the next World Cup, Chastain had basically one chance to even get in front of the national team coaching staff. Early in '95, her club team happened to be at a camp the USA also attended. Unfortunately, Chastain didn't play that well. She did, however, show that her fitness had improved, which made an impression on new national team coach Tony DiCicco. Just not a super deep impression. Before the '95 World Cup, Chastain called DiCicco to ask for a tryout, and he said the roster was already set. There is no place for her. So how'd Chastain go from essentially obsolete to World Cup winning hero in just 4 years? Well, it took some institutional change, a fight for more institutional change, and Brandi kind of being on the wrong side of that fight. The 1996 Olympics planned to feature women's soccer for the first time ever. Exciting. And America was hosting. Also exciting. Sensing they had leverage, the national team went on strike just before the games. U.S. Soccer responded by saying, "We don't need or like you," and inviting a bunch of scabs to training camp. One of the invitees? Brandi Chastain. and she accepted. So, Chastain's a bad guy? Usually crossing the picket line makes you a bad guy, but not this time. Before accepting the invite, Chastain called national team co-captain Julie Foudy for advice. Without hesitation, Foudy was like, "Go to camp, don't worry about it, strike with us next time." She knew how rare a second chance was and wanted Chastain back on the team. After the strike ended, Chastain made the team and nobody held anything against her. So, I'm not gonna make a bigger deal out of this than her teammates. She crossed the picket line, no biggie, let's move on. Actually, let's back up a bit to talk about Chastain making the team. She played well during camp. DeChico wanted her even after the strike ended and he got his regular players back, but not as a forward, her lifelong position. He wanted her to play defense. Defense isn't as glamorous as being a goal-scoring forward, but it's a lot more glamorous than watching the Olympics at home, even if you have a pool. So she was back on the team, and actually playing defense and being in country representing shape suited Chastain quite well. She began to grow into the star we assume she was from the photo. When the '99 World Cup rolled around, Chastain was established as a regular starter, one of the team's best players. In fact, DeChico called her one of the best defenders in the world. But was she good enough to take a penalty kick with the World Cup on the line? Assistant coach Lauren Gregg didn't think so. Not to call you out, Greg, you had solid reasoning. Chastain had struggled with PKs all year, including a recent failed attempt against China. Hey, who's the World Cup finals against again? Huh. And the goalie? The very same one she couldn't score on a few months ago? Yep, great. But DeChico essentially had a trick up his sleeve. After her last miss, he had Chastain practice PKs with her non-dominant foot. He overruled Gregg and put Chastain's left foot fifth in the lineup. And we know what happened next. Ball goes in, USA wins, China loses, shirt comes off, and we have our iconic picture. Today we take for granted that this is a genuine show of emotion, but at the time, there was some cynicism. People thought Chastain's celebration was a marketing ploy to sell sports bras. Yes, this was a real, widespread theory that was in newspapers. I know what you're thinking. How could Nike and Chastain have possibly planned this? But you know what the sports bra truthers would say to you? Don't be naive. While some thought Chastain and Nike were in cahoots, others thought Chastain did it on her own, hoping to get a lucrative endorsement deal with Nike. She did already have one, but it was just 5 figures, and guess what? It expired 3 months after the World Cup. No wonder she scored that penalty kick. The theory was so prevalent, Chastain had to deny it in a press conference. When nobody bought her tears, the press conference just left people doubting her even more. She said she didn't know which sports bra she was wearing. Really, Chastain? Because you were on a panel advising Nike about a new line of sports bras earlier this year. Bet you were wearing that kind of bra. Now, she did say she wasn't sure which bra, not which kind of bra, but hey, don't parse words. She's trying to trick us. Nike denied the whole thing was a ploy, but they recognized it was amazing publicity that they were absolutely going to capitalize on. Executives watching screamed for the win, and when they noticed what bra Chastain was wearing, screamed a little louder for all the money they were going to make. Bras hit the market before the end of the month, were priced about 1/3 higher than the competition, and Chastain and the photo were used to promote them. Nike caught some flack for using the moment to their advantage. Drooling? Why are we judging Nike so hard? The company was, in a capitalistic way, celebrating the moment. It was a marketing opportunity because, for many people in 1999, this photo was great. It was a flag announcing the arrival of women's sports. However, that was just one opinion. For others, this photo, and Chastain herself, were simply the worst. Many found the celebration inappropriate. But what the hell, male soccer players take their shirts off all the time. It's only bad when a woman does it? That's bullshit. No, never mind, that's not what I think. I'm not stupid. I think women taking their shirts off is equivalent to men taking their pants off? That's the non-stupid opinion? According to more than one source? Chastain's critics got louder when they found out that before the tournament she posed nude, soccer balls providing modesty, on the cover of Gear magazine. Chastain had said she thought the pic would show off more of her conditioning, but wasn't upset with the picture by any means. However, feminists and sexists were united in their disdain for Chastain. 1999. What a time to be alive. The fact that she showcased her body twice had people acting like there was something psychologically wrong with her. The anti-Chastain fervor got even more bizarre. From Title IX is bad to golf is more exciting than soccer, but since golfers don't strip, they'll never get the attention of women's soccer. Here, a journalist who did not watch the World Cup said Chastain was making little girls obsessed with fame and sport. But girls have just as much a right to be fame-hungry as boys. And hold on, I don't agree with the premise that athletes make kids want to be famous at any cost. But if it happens to boys, it should happen to girls too. What am I even talking about? The same article says that Nike should make nursing bras, and I think that's actually kind of interesting. Help me? I'm in too deep. Let's get back to some of the more lucid arguments against Chastain's celebration. Mainly, it distracted from the national team's accomplishments. There's some truth to that, right? Like, everyone knows a shirt was removed, but does anyone know who else scored a penalty kick? Or which US goalie made the save that set up the US win? True or not, a lot of this line of criticism just served as an excuse to bash Chastain and women in general. But there were some more credible sources, like Tony DeChico, who found the moment distracting. His issue, however, was with the media circus and the hypersexualization of the photo. Chastain's teammate Tiffany Milbrett also didn't relish the media attention the photo created. To be clear, neither DeChico nor Milbrett had a problem with Chastain or her celebration. It wasn't Chastain's fault the media harped on and sexualized the moment. She never leaned into that angle, and the national team was being objectified well before the finals. But was that such a bad thing? The team saw an upside to all the attention. Even Milbrett. She said Chastain's celebration catapulted the sport and our profession into the stratosphere. Chastain herself said getting interviewed about taking her shirt off gave her a platform to talk about women's soccer. And Julie Foudy said it was absolutely fine with the team that a fraction of fans were coming to games because they thought the players were hot. Why? Let's look at the context. Back in 1991, when the national team arrived home winning the first ever Women's World Cup, they were greeted at the airport by the men's coach. That's it. No press, no fans, no balloons even. Nobody cared they were the best in the world. In 1999, there was no women's professional league in America. And if the players wanted one, they needed fans. A league was important to them, they liked playing soccer, but it would also be trailblazing. To have their sport in the stratosphere mattered. Who cares what launched it? After the '99 World Cup, they did get an American professional league off the ground, with Mia Hamm versus Brandi Chastain headlining. In 2003, Brandi Chastain said this photo ended up giving a voice to the voiceless. This makes sense for the long-ignored women's national team, but it also makes sense for all women, or any woman who has ever felt voiceless. Sure, when you peel back this photo, you see the attacks, the sexism, the conspiracy theories. You see Chastain's personal struggles and shortcomings. But none of that endured. What endured was the overwhelming sense of pride, and power, and victory and euphoria that Chastain was feeling in the moment herself. Hey everybody, thanks for watching. Check out these other videos. Feel free to subscribe, and have a nice day. Or night. I don't know what time it is where you are. For Secret Base, I'm Clara Morris. Good night and good game.